Welcome to Fix It Home Improvement, covering projects that every homeowner should know and great products for home and garden.
Hi, I'm JC, and this is where we share weekly home improvement tips. I'm here with my co-host, Cindy.
Hello, JC.
Hi, Cindy. Today we're going to be talking about drain openers, drain cleaners, bacterial products, some drain cleaning tools, and I spoke to Julie and Brian from Unique, and they make some very interesting bacterial cleaners. So you want to start out by talking about some of the tools you can use before you use a chemical?
Okay.
So they have the Zip It, which has been around for a while. It's a little plastic strip with little barbs on the end of it that grabs hair, pulls it out of the drain so that you don't have to use a chemical. You have the Drain Claw. There's the Drain Stick. And then
why don't you describe the Drain Claw?
The Drain Claw, it's a 2-foot-long flexible rubber-coated wire that has a little tip on it that has 100 little plastic interlocking hooks. So you push this into the opening of a drain, primarily for hair. So if you have a slow bathtub or shower, you're going to push it into the opening. It grabs that hair that builds up at the opening of the drain. Well, the older bathtubs have that little crossbar, or they have the bracket underneath the stopper, and that grabs the hair.
Right.
And it's what slows down your tub. So you just push it in, you give it a twist, you pull out that hair, and that way you don't have to use chemicals.
And all these tools do the same thing,
Yeah,
right?
They're all basically are doing the same function. They're pulling out the hair that builds up. Because why use a chemical if it's just a blob of hair sitting right there? And a lot of people, in fact, when I first started investing in real estate, we had all these rentals, and one of the biggest problems were these slow bathtubs. And, we lose about 100 hairs a day, gets clogged right there. So I would use needle nose pliers. I'd try to get underneath the stopper in these bathtubs and pull this hair out, and then you'd grab this ball of hair, which was very nasty. What most people don't realize is they try to use a drain opener at the opening there, and drain openers are actually designed to be heavier than water, so they actually go right past that hair down to the lowest point through gravity, and they're not really doing a great job with this hair. So I would say if you have a slow bathtub, or if you have even a slow bathroom sink, I would probably grab one of these tools, use that first before you use a chemical. And you wouldn't want to use one of these tools after you use a chemical,
right,
like Drano, because you're going to splash it up on yourself.
Right. Doesn't Drano have a tool as well?
They have a little kit, so they have a little rod. It's a plastic strip with the barbs along the side to pull out hair.
It kind of looks like the Zip It, right?
Exactly, like the Zip It, and then it comes with a bottle of their drain opener. So another tool you can use is a hand rod. If you've got, let's say, a bad clog or completely clogged drain in your bathroom or kitchen, you can remove the trap underneath. Also, you'd want to remove the wall tube so that you get to the stub out, that main pipe sticking out of the wall.
Right.
And then you're going to use this tool to go down through the drain pipe and break loose whatever's clogging your sink. And what's nice about a rod is you're pretty much guaranteed you're going to open it up.
Are there different sizes?
There's a couple different lengths. Most of them have a 1/4-inch coiled steel cable that you're using. You're pushing it through. And one of the tricks when using a hand rod is you don't want to pull too much of the cable out of the body of the hand rod, because what happens when you try to push it, it just flexes,
right,
and you can't push it down. So when we used it, I would take the rod, and there's usually a set screw that you loosen. We carried the Cobra products at the hardware store, and they did a really nice job. There's a couple different styles, but you just loosen the set screw, and then you push this metal rod into the stub out, and so you're pushing it down the drain. It's going to take that first turn, and you've got to kind of work it back and forth. You're kind of jamming it into the drain pipe until you push it down and find it stops. So you either found another tight turn or you found the clog, and then you only want to have about 4 or 6 inches space between the end of that stub out, that pipe that's coming out of the wall, and the end of the rod. You're going to tighten down your set screw, and then you're going to start to turn it by hand. It has a handle, a grip, almost like a pistol grip underneath it, and then it has a little knob on the end that you start to rotate and push it forward towards the drain, and as you're slowly picking at whatever the clog is, it slowly breaks free. So then you push in those few inches, you loosen the set screw, you pull out about another 4 or 6 inches of the rod itself, tighten that set screw, and you're just working a few inches at a time. if you do it like that, you're not going to get frustrated, because if you try to push too much, that garage just flexes on you. And then they have the same style that you can attach to a drill. And actually, when we were doing remodeling homes, we had one of those, and it just did a nice job.
Didn't we do this at your mom's condo for a video?
Yes, we did a video on our YouTube channel, so Fix It Home Improvement channel. You can go there and check out the video.
Was this the one that we did in the kitchen?
Yes, we did one in the kitchen.
And your mom's neighbor called and was freaking out?
Yeah, because she heard the
the
stuff rattling in the pipes. Ma's
Casey,
complaining.
what are you doing?
The phone's going off.
It's only 5 o'clock in the afternoon. It's too loud.
She's really concerned about being loud.
I know.
Which is interesting. So hand tools are great because you're not using any chemicals. You know, the only thing you're going to need is you're going to need a pipe wrench or an adjustable pliers like a channel lock to loosen those nuts, take off your trap, take off that wall tube so that you can gain access to the main drain. Another tool that we loved when we were remodeling homes, we would rent this all the time, is a water ram, it's called. It's an air gun that you pump up, and it comes with a bunch of different sized rubber tips. And so you change the tip so it matches the opening of the drain. And this was fantastic in bathtubs, especially bathtubs if they have a drum trap.
Right, like mine.
Yeah, terrible. So the drum trap is a style they do not use anymore. They've replaced all of them.
Except mine.
Right. Well, new homes. They no longer put those drum traps in because you could never run a rod into it. It would bottom out and it wouldn't come up through that and down the drain.
Why don't you explain what a drum trap is?
So a drum trap is, rather than a P-trap or a J-shaped, it was just a little barrel, just a little, it's a circular container that the drain pipe came into the bottom of this, and then the water would fill, and then it would drain out the top. So if you ran a rod through this, there's no way that rod can flex and get up the other part of the drain pipe. So just a bad idea, and over the years, the buildup of rust and debris would almost turn to concrete in these drum traps. So sometimes when they filled up, they were almost impossible to clear out, and that's why we really like this air gun that you would pump up. If you go and you rent one, in fact, we did a video on our YouTube channel on this too, which is actually pretty interesting. But you pump up this water ram, and I would start with around 60 pounds of pressure if you're doing a bathtub. You have to block off the overflow. So in the case of a bathtub, you would take a wet rag, remove the cover to the overflow, shove it in there. You can, if you have a helper, you would have them hold that rag. If you don't have a helper, you would just screw the cover back on, wedging that wet rag, and then you pump up this tool. You put it into the opening of the drain and you squeeze the trigger, and it shoots this surge of air and water combined, and it shakes loose any clog. So really effective, very simple. And if you're doing bathroom or kitchen sinks, in a bathroom you would cover the overflow. You'd only want to pump it up in a kitchen or bathroom to about 30 pounds to start. Because I've learned if you pump it up too much, you blow those P-traps right off, which I did quite a few times when I first started using the tool. But it does a great job. And in a kitchen sink, you would want to make sure you take a wet rag and cover. If you have a double bowl, cover that and have somebody hold that second bowl while you blow out the other one. But that's a nice option if you're looking to try to unclog your drain and not use chemicals.
Didn't we carry a tool that you hooked up to a garden hose?
Sure, the Drain King. It's like a rubber bladder. It's like a elongated rubber bladder. You hook a garden hose to it. Again, with this, you have to take off the trap and the wall tube. You push it into the main drain. They have a couple different sizes depending on the size of the drain. And then you crank up the hose. It swells up. It locks itself into the drain. And then it uses that water pressure to break loose a buildup. Then when you turn it off, it compresses back to the regular size. You can pull it out. And when we were doing our remodeling, I don't think any of our tenants ever had a hose. I don't think anybody ever used it in their, or watered their grass.
Yeah.
So I never tried it, but we sold quite a few at the hardware store, and people seem to like it. So that's another effective way that you can try to unclog a drain without chemicals. So when most people think about a drain opener, the first thing that comes to mind is probably some type of liquid drain opener, Drano, or liquid plumber. And it's just easy. You don't have to have tools to take off the pipes. You don't have to try to push a rod down and pull it out. Now you've got to, clean this messy rod out. And so most people, I think, just like pouring a chemical down, hoping it breaks up the clog, and they don't have to worry about it until the next time it gets clogged.
But I don't know if everybody really understands how dangerous these chemicals are.
True.
I mean, in the hardware store, these are some of the most dangerous chemicals that we carry.
Right.
I mean, the acid that we carry actually comes Each bottle is wrapped in individual plastic bags.
which is smart, and it should be.
So you have a dangerous situation on your hand if any of this spills.
Right?
I've heard stories of, stores where the shelving has actually collapsed because there's, too much weight on one side, or it was just old, whatever. And if this section falls, it's really scary.
Very difficult to clean up, and now you're trying to breathe. You have toxic fumes.
Well, we carry a drain opener section, so you have acids, you have bases. Those two mixing is never a good thing.
It creates a deadly gas when you mix acids and bases, and also so difficult to clean up. So when we're talking about drain openers, we're really talking about pH. So water is a 7, which is neutral. Anything lower than a 7 is an acid. When you get some of these drain openers like sulfuric acid or hydrochloric acid, they're a 0. They're the strongest acids, and they're taking electrons from whatever the clog is and breaking down the bonds that hold it together. And then on the other end of the scale, the other end of the pH scale, are bases, which are, from 7 to 14. The strongest bases are a 14, and most companies use a sodium hydroxide or a potassium hydroxide, and they're actually giving electrons to the clog, and that also breaks down the clog and allows you to open it up. So whether you're using a base or an acid, both ends of the pH scale do a fantastic job of breaking down most clogs, any organic clogs. The problem is acids work so quickly that they're very dangerous, and that's why we always trained only professionals should be using the acids.
Right.
And we always kept them on the base stack so that it wouldn't get knocked off a shelf and accidentally splatter. Not only can it be dangerous, but very difficult to clean up.
But people like it because it works so fast.
It works fast, but that's the problem. You see a lot of these hate crimes around the world, and people throw acid, usually sulfuric acid, in somebody's face, and in 15 to 20 seconds it starts to break down the proteins that hold flesh together. So just brutal injuries because of acids. So if you decide to use an acid, I would make sure that the room is very well ventilated, that you're wearing gloves. And when you mix acid and water, it generates a lot of heat, so you would never want to use acid in a toilet bowl, especially if you have an older toilet. The clay, the porcelain starts to crack and craze over time, and the heat that's generated can crack old toilets. And then if you pour acid in a toilet bowl and it doesn't get to the clog and it doesn't break the clog, and you flush the toilet and it overflows, now you have just a terrible mess to try to clean up safely.
Right.
So you would never want to put acid into a toilet bowl. If you're using it in a regular drain, you want to scoop out as much water as possible because, again, when acid mixes with water, it generates tremendous heat, and it can also start spitting and sputtering, and you don't want that to be splashing up.
So that's what they call dipping out?
Yes, so you want to dip out all the water whenever you use an acid. Another danger with using an acid-based drain opener is if you've used any cleaners that have bleach in it before you use the opener. So let's say you've cleaned your bathroom, you've used some cleaners in it, it has bleach in it. You now use a drain opener with acid. It will generate a chlorine gas, which is highly toxic and deadly. In fact, there's a few people who die every year because they mix cleaning products in an acid-based drain opener.
That's amazing.
And then the other thing you got to worry about is, let's say you've used an acid-based drain opener, you pour it into your drain, it just isn't getting to the clog. Let's say the clog is so far down the drain, it's not reaching it and breaking it down. You get frustrated, you run back to the hardware store and grab another drain opener, and you use a different brand, so now you're grabbing a base rather than acid. So you can always add an acid behind an acid and not have a problem. But now if you grab a base and you pour it in here, you're going to have a chemical reaction. It's going to generate a lot of heat as they try to neutralize each other. And so the heat can be a problem, especially in plastic pipes. You also are generating a toxic gas when you mix acids and bases. So just add a tip, as long as we're talking about dangerous mixtures, you would never want to mix anything that has bleach in it with an ammonia cleaner, because that will also produce a toxic gas. So in my opinion, if you're looking for a drain opener, I would stay away from the acids. I would go with something that's a base that has either sodium hydroxide or potassium hydroxide in it. And it's usually going to be found in your liquid plumbers and Drainos. So the first Draino products were started in 1923.
I know.
And they were a crystal form. I love some of the early ads, like in the 20s. And it's funny, in the 20s, that's when you started having indoor plumbing. And what a smart company to immediately get on the fact that people are going to clog up these drains in a house. So something that started in the 20s, still a great company today. I love some of the early ads, like I saw a 1928 ad, and they have this picture, and they've got Drano in the ad, and it says, every drain in her house is as free-flowing as a mountain brook, because she uses Drano every Saturday.
Is that like your advertising voice?
Did you like it?
No,
How
it's
was
kind
it?
of creepy.
It didn't sell?
No.
And then it's interesting in...
I don't think Drano's going to be hiring you.
Okay, I'll have to send them a copy of this. But in 1927, they said that they're saying, use Drano to not only open your plumbing drains, but you can use it to open choked downspouts, which is weird. And then a couple of their ads in the 20s also talked about deodorizing your garbage cans with Drano. So I'm sure it was a milder formula when it first started. But Drano actually does a great job. They're a base, and a lot of their products have like a 2% sodium hydroxide. Again, much safer than acid. You put it down a slower clogged drain, and you want to give these bases time to work. So you're going to pour it in at the end of the evening or before you go to work, and you can just allow it to sit in there. Then when you get home, you can flush it with hot water. Or if you're trying to open your drain and you don't want to wait, you'd want to give it at least 20, 30 minutes. I would say use half of the bottle, wait 20 or 30 minutes, and if it's not doing the job, then add the second half of the bottle. But it needs time. Bases need time to break down that clog.
Well, a good tip is to start running your hot water.
Absolutely.
If it's not fully clogged.
Warm
Warm up the pipes, and then all bases are going to work better with hot water.
Absolutely. And in fact, one tip, another popular drain opener is InstaFlow. It's a 100% sodium hydroxide crystal.
Right.
Works fantastic for slow drains, but you wouldn't want to use it on a fully clogged drain because it has a very difficult time working itself down to the clog. But I would say boil some water, pour it down first, warm up the pipes, and then pour down this crystal sodium hydroxide and chase it with boiling water. And you have to be careful because it does pop and fizz a little bit.
Right, yeah.
You need to make sure that you're wearing rubber gloves and eye protection. Some people, what they'll do is they'll pour water on it and then just turn over a pan on top of it and let it do its job. But for slow drains, it does an excellent job.
So in some drains that you never want to use, any type of drain opener is in a toilet, like you talked about with acid, but even a base, you shouldn't put down a toilet. And then a kitchen sink that has garbage disposal on it, those rubber gaskets, the drain openers affect that.
Yes, and also a lot of the garbage disposals have aluminum parts, so you never want to mix a base with aluminum, any of the active metals, because it creates an explosive hydrogen gas. And then acids, actually, in galvanized pipe, they create an explosive gas. So acids with metals and bases with the active metals, you don't want to mix. I'd like to cover a couple of tips if you were to have a spill of either an acid or a base. In both cases, you want to open up the windows, get ventilation right away, and you will need to get this up as quickly as possible. And with both an acid or a base, if you have kitty litter or sand, you want to get that on it right away so that we can start to absorb it. You're going to need rubber gloves and some type of plastic bag to put this in.
Good quality rubber gloves, not like disposable.
Exactly, yeah, you need high quality. And if you use drain cleaners regularly, you should have a good quality pair of chemical rubber gloves. In the case of an acid, you want to get sand, kitty litter down, mop up as much as you can, and then neutralize it with baking soda. And the baking soda will help neutralize the acid. It'll also, you pour enough on it, it'll clump up anything. Get all this up with old rags, and then you're going to want to do your final wipe down with a mixture of water and baking soda, kind of a paste, and wipe this down, scrub it. And then once you feel like most of it's up, then you can go after it, flushing it with water and old rags.
Should you use a cleaner on it afterwards?
Yeah, then I would probably use a good quality soap and clean it up. If you spill a base, then you want to kind of go after the same thing. You want to get sand or something down. You can use baking soda to help clump it, absorb it using rags, gloves, get it into plastic bags. And then with a caustic, with a base, you're going to want to use vinegar on rags for your final wipe up, and that vinegar will, since vinegar is slightly acidic, it's going to neutralize the base.
Any type of vinegar?
Any type of vinegar will do a nice job for their final wipe up to get the main chemical up, and then again you're going to want to rinse it quite a few times with just clean water and then soap and water to get it clean. But those are the types of things you need to be thinking about if you're using these really harsh chemicals. And then the safest type of drain openers you can get are the bacterial and enzyme drain openers. And these will slowly break down the buildup on the pipes. So especially that black, sticky biofilm, they call it, that
right.
slowly builds up over years. And especially your older homes. If you have a 20 to 30-year-old home, it's amazing how choked down your drain pipe gets. But if you start using a bacterial product once a month, it slowly over time, and these things are microscopic, so it takes a while, but you can slowly break down all this buildup and really never have a clog because you're never allowing anything to build up.
So I always thought of these as more of a drain cleaner, not a drain opener.
Yeah, kind of a maintenance. But it's funny, we talked to Julie and Brian from Unique, and some of these new blends, they use a blend of different bacteria, so they've really advanced the drain cleaners, the natural stuff, that they're using specific strains that each attack something different. So why don't we play that interview I had with Julie and Brian, and they can explain it a little more. They have a couple interesting products. Cindy and I were talking about drain openers this week and bacterial drain cleaners, and I was just wondering if you could give us some information on some of your products.
Okay, I'd love to. Our super digested safe drain opener it's an excellent drain opener. It will open a clogged drain, and it all works with bacteria. And so the bacteria literally eats all the greases and oils and things that build up in your pipes, and then they keep the pipes flowing again. It will open most clogged drains within an hour.
Okay.
If you spill it on yourself, it's not a problem. It won't hurt you, it won't hurt your pets, won't hurt the floor, but it will open a clogged drain. You can use it right in a toilet bowl, so you don't have to worry about it heating up and creating a problem there. And you can use it in the sink. It will eat through grease and things like that.
You know, one of the great benefits using a bacterial and enzyme-based drain opener is, it gives a great safe alternative to what's typically out there in the side of acids and things like that you just frankly don't want your family around, don't want your kids to get a hold of, and then even just in your plumbing, it has the potential to damage it. So the bacterial enzyme products have a great opportunity to give an alternative for those who don't want those types of acids and things in their homes. And then, the other great thing about a bacterial enzyme product is that, for one, our product can be a drain opener, which a lot of them aren't. A lot of them are simply maintainers, but that is another aspect of our product, in that it can be a maintenance product rather than being a product that you use when all of a sudden you're in an emergency, your sink's backing up or your toilet's backing up. You can use it on a regular basis down your drain lines so that you don't have those issues. And again, the nature of the bacteria and enzymes is that it's going to be breaking down the greases and oils, which are the main cause of your drain line issues. So that's one of the great benefits of the safe drain opener, along with the fact that it can open a drain that is completely stopped up as well.
I think that's one question that homeowners have is, if I have a completely clogged drain, is a bacterial product going to do the job?
Absolutely, yeah.
And yours will?
It will, yes. And we have a really high concentration of bacteria in our bottles, and so that makes a big difference on how well they work. And it will just go down through the clog and just start eating away the things that are creating that.
With a bacterial drain opener, another important thing to know is the difference between liquids and powders. Okay. Because powders tend to take a little bit longer to get started. They've got to get mixed into solution and begin to activate that way. So that's another important thing when you're looking at speed. It's not necessarily going to be as fast as your acid-based drain openers, but it's going to get the job done and get it done relatively quickly.
So when you have a powdered bacteria, exactly what is it? It's just in a state of suspended animation?
Right, and it has to mix with water and break down and start going to work. Where with the liquid, it just, as soon as it gets with the water and gets its food source, which is whatever's clogging your drain, it goes right to work.
And they eat primarily proteins? Is that what's activating them, or?
There's 7 kinds of bacteria. One of the is a protein-eating strain. One's the lipids, so greases and oils. There's a strain down papers, so toilet paper, things like that. There's ultimately 7 different strains, including an odor-eliminating strain, that are going to, all kind of work together to attack what you typically run into in your plumbing.
Interesting. And then you guys have a product I'd like to learn a little about, the pet odor and stain eliminator.
Yes, that was the first product. That's the product that started our company.
Really?
And we have it in both a concentrate and a ready-to-use. It is an amazingly effective product. You put it down on the stain and odor, and it literally eats those. So what it does is it creates its own enzyme. The enzyme breaks down the stain, and then the bacteria literally come in and eat that stain and odor. Then when they're done, there's no food source for them. It turns into water and carbon dioxide and goes away. So you don't get that oily film on your carpet or anything else that makes it get dirty sooner.
Sure.
It will also break down any pheromones or anything like that will cause an animal, your pet, to come back to the same spot. And another great feature of it, it can work on old stains as well as new. So if you move into a place that has stains and odors, and all of a sudden your pet starts reacting to that, you can just go in and clean it, and it will permanently remove that so that your pet won't have accidents in the house anymore.
And how is it with cat urine?
It is excellent with cat urine. We have a lot of people that ask that, and I know it can be tricky, but it really does well. And one thing we do tell people with cats, we have found over the years that cats will spray, and so sometimes they'll spray on the wall, and it will get down behind the baseboards. So we tell people, once you don't smell it in the carpet, if you still feel like there's an odor, check around the baseboards, and if that's the case, then you can literally just mix it up and pour it right down there, and it will get that as well.
Excellent. And you also have a septic product?
We do. We have our septic system digester, and we actually have 3 products in the septic world. We have the septic system digester, which is your monthly maintenance, and it is also a liquid. So 1 bottle is good for 4 uses. And then when people have a larger problem, when your septic field is not quite perking how it should, we have a product that you put the whole bottle down, and that's called Septic Field Rejuvenator. And that gets out there way out into your laterals and everything and cleans those up. And we have had many people save thousands of dollars from having to dig up their field by just using that product.
Wonderful.
And then we've had customers call us and say, we're using all the right things. Now how do we clean our toilet? So we created a toilet bowl cleaner. We have 2 of them. We have one that is for septic enhancing. So when you typically clean your toilet with a product and you have a septic, you're going to put something down there from the toilet cleaner that can adversely affect your septic. So what this does is it just enhances. We just put bacteria in there, so when you flush the toilet, then that just is going to keep enhancing your septic system.
So it adds to the bacterial count?
Exactly.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, very smart.
Yeah, and then we also came up with one because the people that are really concerned with the safe drain opener, they asked us the same question, so then we also have one that's just safe. It'll effectively clean your toilet, but it's safe. It won't hurt you or your pets or your family. Very
interesting. Well, Julie and Brian, if I wanted to find out more about your products, where would I go?
You can go to our website, and it's at www.uniquemm.com.
Okay, great. And I'll put the link in our show notes so that we can track you down.
Perfect.
Well, I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, JC.
Thank you.
Okay.
Have a great day.
Oh, you too. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
I enjoyed that interview. I'm very interested in trying that toilet bowl cleaner.
You have anything else to add?
I would say just make sure whenever you're working with drain openers that you wear some type of eye protection and rubber gloves.
So I think that wraps up this episode.
You can subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or Stitcher.
If you enjoyed it, please leave a review.
You can check out our home improvement videos on YouTube. It's our Fix It Home Improvement channel.
And you can subscribe to that as well.
If you'd like to email us, you can email us at fixitpodcast@gmail.com.
Thank you for listening.
Talk to you next week.